Twins Mummy NI podcast. I am mummy to 1-year-old twins Isla and Daria. Join us on our twin adventure as I explore a range of topics on parenthood. Hello everybody and welcome to the 29th episode of the Twins Mummy NI podcast. If you've just stumbled upon this podcast, my name is Carla and I work as a TV journalist, but now I am a stay-at-home mum to 1-year-old twin girls. If you're interested in topics such as perinatal mental health, maternal well-being, and what life is really like for a first-time twin mum, then this is the place for you. You are very welcome. You can also check out our twin adventure on Instagram at twinsmummyni. Now, before I begin this week's podcast, it has been a real week in our household. Isla and Daria unfortunately had little coughs and colds and splutters, so the whole house was sick and all of us were feeling, let's just say, very sorry for ourselves. But last night was the first good night's sleep that we got, thankfully. So I decided to grab the microphone today and give this podcast episode a little go. I'm actually in Isla and Daria's bedroom. And to the right of me, Isla is in one cot snoozing away and Aria is in the other cot snoozing away. So I thought I would grab the microphone and just sit with the girls during their nap time this morning and have a little chat with you. They are exhausted, dear love them. My whole heart goes out to them. You know yourself when you're not well and all you want to do is just cuddle up on the sofa perhaps with a nice warm blanket. Maybe a nice hot cup of tea and just your favourite movie. Well, the girls are no different. They love just cuddling up with mummy with little blankets and maybe watching some of their favourite TV programmes. I don't like seeing them whenever they're not well. Thankfully, it's only little coughs and colds. It's something very minor. We've been very lucky that the girls haven't been sick too often. So whenever they are sick, you know, I'm not really used to it, but I just keep going. But it has been, I'm going to be very honest with you, it has certainly been a challenging old week for us in our household. But having said that, the weather is getting a little bit brighter. We had some beautiful sunshine this weekend and I am hoping to get out and about more, you know, just to get out of the house, to get some fresh air, as I always talk about this podcast, and to just blow those old cobwebs off and to get out and enjoy the world and see the world around us and other people again instead of coughing and spluttering indoors. So hopefully we'll see what sort of wee form the girls are in later, but I'll maybe pack all three of us up, get us into the car and even go for a little walk later. The girls love feeding the ducks, so I might take them out to our local park and feed some of the ducks. I'm feeling a bit adventurous today, so I will take the pram with me just in case, but I might bring their little harnesses that I have. They're two little pink butterfly bags that I pop on the girls and encourage them to walk. At the minute, I'm trying to get out and about walking with the girls as opposed to in the pram as much as I can. It is certainly not easy when I'm on my own, when Isla's running one road and Aria wants to run the other road, but I'm trying to make a little bit of effort to do that more often if I can. So we'll see how we're feeling later, and hopefully the two little pink harnesses and the three of us will be out enjoying a nice walk later with some fresh air. Let's have a little chat about this week's podcast episode. This week I was trying to think, what sort of topic will I talk about? Last week's episode was finding joy in motherhood and it received such a huge response. I couldn't believe it. So thank you very much to each and every one of you who did listen to that podcast episode. I'm so thankful for the wonderful feedback that I received. I don't really have a set plan as such for the podcast. I do have lots of ideas of different things that I like to talk about, but that is very authentic. It is very real. You know, some things that might crop up maybe in conversations that I've had or in my own experience in motherhood, and I thought, you know what, that might be something worth talking about, and that's what led me to choose this week's podcast topic, that of comparison. You know, we've all heard that phrase, comparison is the thief of joy. Well, in this week's podcast episode, I would like to have a little chat with you about comparison in motherhood. Motherhood for me isn't about striving for perfection, nor is it about ticking a box of ideals or certain milestones that have to be reached. but rather, for me certainly, it's an imperfect journey into the unknown to be taken one step at a time. Do you ever feel inadequate in motherhood? Or do you ever feel self-conscious about yourself in motherhood? Those are two things that I certainly have experienced so far in my journey of motherhood with Isla and Daria. Do you ever scroll through social media and on a subconscious level compare yourself to what others are doing? I know I certainly have. Or do you see what we think are well put together mums and dads on the school run or at tots classes and all of the wonderful shiny photographs that are posted each day on Instagram? Well, comparison in motherhood can happen to any of us, myself very much included. You know, what I post on social media, I'll be very honest with you, it's only a small snapshot of our day here in our family home. For the other 98% of the day, we're just like any other home, up to our eyes in nappies, household chores, and the general day-to-day of running a family home with twin toddlers and all of the chaos and the mayhem that comes with that. You know, I certainly don't live a shiny, happy life, but I do like to share little glimmers of joy that we experience to brighten someone else's day. You know, make no mistake, my experience of motherhood is not picture perfect, far from it, and it never has been. But I don't really need it to be either. You know, comparison is such a normal emotion. It can happen anywhere and at any time. I'll share something with you. I took the girls to a soft play area recently. It was a very long day, and Isla and Aria hadn't been feeling very well the week before. And we're getting ourselves, you know, back on track and onto a little even keel again. I felt that we all needed a wee run out of the house, so I grabbed the girls, packed us all up and drove into a soft play area for a little change of scenery. Do you ever get days like that? You know, when you just really need a wee run out of the house? Well, the girls that particular day were all in their everyday clothes that I keep for around the house, especially when we have been experimenting with different types of foods and stuff like that. It can be a messy enough old affair. But on that day, we were in our everyday clothes. We were clean, but it certainly wasn't anything fancy by no means. And the girls, unfortunately, won't let me put little nice bows or hairbands in their hair. And at times also, it is hard to keep their shoes on. So I felt, in my opinion, we were thrown together, but we were clean enough, and that was good enough to do to get out the door. Whenever we arrived at this soft play area, I noticed lots of children there were wearing these beautiful dresses. They had nice shiny shoes on and lovely, beautiful little bows and hairbands. And whenever I saw that, I felt that I hadn't done a good enough job that day. And it was on my mind for the rest of that day until I caught myself on. I reminded myself that there are days like this. We don't have to be perfect. You know, just because Isla and Aria wasn't wearing one of their nicer dresses, or they didn't have their shoes on that day, or they didn't have even a hair bobble in their hair, particularly Isla won't let me put a nice ponytail in her hair. I felt because they didn't have their shoes on, or a nice wee bow in their hair, or a nice wee top or dress on, that I was lacking as a mother and that I wasn't doing a good enough job. But I soon caught myself on, as long as we're clean and tidy and we make an effort to get out the door for some fun, well, do you know what? Isn't that good enough? On that particular day, the girls enjoyed themselves no matter what they were wearing, nor whether it doesn't really matter if they had nice shoes on or whether they had that bow in their hair or not. They enjoyed themselves, and that is what really mattered. And when I experience similar situations like this in life, I always remind myself that we're all doing the best that we can to get by. Have you ever experienced feeling like that before? Maybe it's not like an exact situation, but have you ever felt, gosh, you doubt yourself and you compare yourself to others and think, I wish I did a better job, when in actual fact, you're doing a brilliant job. No matter what you convince yourself or say to yourself that you really are. I certainly am not a perfect mother, but nor do I strive to be one either. At times, I do find myself getting caught in that old comparison trap. And at times, I question whether I am a good enough mum. Could I be doing anything more to prepare them to be strong and independent women to take on whatever challenges in life may come their way? But as the girls grow each day, I too am growing right alongside them. And I'm learning to embrace the chaos and find the joy in the everyday activities of raising twin toddlers. At times, I do find myself comparing my role as a mum to others. This isn't something new in my life. There are many occasions when I look back at my younger self and see where I wasted so much time and energy worrying and comparing myself to others. Have you ever experienced that before? I'll give you an example. Throughout my career, there were certainly occasions where I compared myself to others. I worried if I was doing a good enough job to compare to those who had a similar level of experience to what I had. And I compared my life and what I had hoped to achieve, at certain stages. And the moment that I realised that this was a complete colossal waste of time was a real turning point for me. Each one of us are on our own unique journey in life. Whether that's about our relationships, our careers, our aspirations, or perhaps family life as well, each journey is unique to us. And that also includes motherhood and our experience of motherhood as well. It is a very normal and a human response to compare ourselves to others. Perhaps that can be on a more subconscious level at times. It can be a way in which our thoughts assess how we convince ourselves we're doing in life. And it is common to look at others and compare ourselves to feel a little bit better about how well our lives are going. However, in this modern day, with social media so accessible, we can end up feeling totally inadequate and create a sense of failure and even doubt in ourselves where there is absolutely no need to at all. And I've said this many times in the podcast that being a mother, a parent, can be one of the most challenging roles that we ever experience in life. It can challenge us like nothing else, but also it can bring us the greatest joy as well. The stakes are really high when it comes to parenting our children, aren't they? However, how many are guilty of setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves as mums, as parents? I know at times I can certainly throw my hands up and say, yes, that's me. I am guilty of that. But surely motherhood cannot be conducive with perfection. And does it really need to be? I don't think so. I think the need for perfection in motherhood is such an unrealistic thought. And the sooner that I grasped that, the more content and at peace that I started to feel in life. I think this idea of striving for perfection stemmed from an experience that I had in my childhood. I received a D in my 11 plus exam. And for the listeners out there who aren't from Northern Ireland, the 11 plus is an exam that we sit when we're in our final year of primary school. And it determines which type of school we will go to after we finished our primary education. That could be a high school, it could be a grammar school. But I failed that exam. And that time in my life had such a huge impact on me at such a young age. I felt that I wasn't good enough. I felt that I constantly had to prove myself in life. And that certainly didn't stop whenever I became a mum either. However, Isla and Aria have taught me so much about myself and about life that at times it kind of even feels unrecognisable. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity to learn and to grow each day. Aren't we all just figuring it out as we go? We didn't get an instruction manual with the girls, But I don't think it would have been any help regardless, as no 2 days are ever the same, or I don't think they'll ever be the same again in life. And you know what? For that, I will always be very thankful. Motherhood for me, it's an ever-changing environment, with lots of different stages to navigate here. When the goalposts are constantly shifting, surely it's not possible for everything to go to plan. But isn't that true of a lot of things in life? Somehow we convince ourselves that we should be doing things a certain way, and we end up putting far too much pressure on ourselves, which is not required. Motherhood is hard enough. Why do we add to the stress of everyday life in motherhood? Somehow we seem to stack up unrealistic expectations that we see from others. That could be at baby classes or maybe perhaps tots groups and on social media as well. And we fool ourselves into thinking that we should be doing lots of different things, when instead, perhaps a more balanced view, that we're doing our best and choosing how things play out with our wishes for our little families is better. It is no secret that motherhood can call into question our identity in the world. It can at times blur our confidence and create a real self-doubt in ourselves, which can take that real joy out of motherhood. So instead of underestimating our efforts in motherhood, how can we find ways to focus less on what others do and more on having faith in ourselves that we're doing the best we can in any given situation that motherhood presents? We're guilty of comparing ourselves a lot in motherhood. I know I certainly am. We compare our pregnancy experience, our childbirth experience, and when the baby or babies in our situation come along at each stage of that development as well. It's almost like an instinctual thing that we compare ourselves to other circumstances. Social media, again, is not exempt here in this scenario either. Every day we scroll through endless displays of this seemingly perfect life and motherhood experiences which can showcase unrealistic ideals, which for most of us couldn't be more further from the truth from our experience of everyday motherhood, certainly in our home anyway. Those shiny, happy, picture-perfect moments, certainly for me, are not a true portrayal of everyday family life in our home. And over time, when you are constantly scrolling on social media, that can ebb away at our confidence. We find ourselves questioning our approach to motherhood, and even at times doubt our own capability, as well as fueling that feeling of complete inadequacy, which doesn't match these picture perfect images that we see each day on social media. And this constant continuation of comparison, certainly for me, creates that real discord between a huge pressure to fit in and what the true meaning of motherhood really is. Motherhood, in my experience so far, it isn't about striving for perfection or those shiny photographs that we see on social media. Rather, it's a learning as we go and embracing the chaos as we navigate these trenches of twin toddlerhood. As I said in the beginning, that phrase that we've all heard, comparison is a thief of joy. And that rings very true when it comes to comparing ourselves as we travel this journey together as mums. Comparison can weigh us down. It can create a real sense of self-doubt and make it impossible to find any joy that is to be found when we raise our children. I know I am guilty of comparing myself to others, and I even look at others for validation as well. And as I get older and experience different challenges in life, I am learning to rely less and less on others' approval and to pave my own way in life. I'll share a few examples with you of different things that I am currently working on to improve in my self-confidence and to focus more on what is really important in life, that of doing the best that we can in any given situation. For me, this is a more balanced outlook in life. It's something that I certainly feel is very much worth striving for. Oh, I hear a little cough. Right, darling. These old coughs and colds, you know what it's like whenever they set in, every other routine is just out the window. You just have to kind of go with the situation. But I'll be very glad. I'm looking forward to brighter days, and these little coughs and colds have passed, and hopefully getting out and about back into normal routine again. But anyway, yes, where was I? Instead of focusing too much on what others are doing or achieving in life, I try to look inwards and look at what we are actually achieving and not what we aren't achieving. Just because someone is doing something and I haven't, that does not mean that I am any less of a mother or that my children are missing out. Each one of us is entitled to do what we feel is the right thing for our children. You're okay, good girl. You're okay, you're just having a wee dream. You going to go back to sleep? Good girl, we are you. Good girl, darling. It's alright. Little Aria woke up there. I think she was having a little dream, the wee pet. That's quite a stormy, windy day today. And I think the wind from our doors, the windows making the noise kind of woke her up there. But we're all right. Her eyes are closed and we're away back to sleep again. Anyway, where was I? Yes. I try to remind myself of all of the positive things that we have going for us. My mum always reminded me of this as I navigated life from a very young age. I try to celebrate the strengths that we have gained since we became twin parents, and I focus more on the happy parts, and I try not to concern myself with the things that I haven't accomplished. And as soon as I made this change, I noticed a real sense of contentment as I was more tuned into the goodness that we have going on, and I'm very thankful for that. I remember recently the weather wasn't particularly nice and we spent most of that week indoors as a result of that. And I felt so bad for that. This was further compounded when I saw lots of lovely photos and videos of other mums out for nice coffees and walks with their little ones. But I soon caught myself on, from a very young age, I wanted to get out and about as much as I could with Isla and Daria. My father passed away suddenly when the girls were 5 weeks old. And getting out and about each day was the one thing that really helped me to navigate those tough old weeks as I waded through the grief of losing a parent, whilst equally navigating this new chapter of becoming a parent all in one go. And now, if we don't manage to get out and about, I am trying to teach myself that is okay. It doesn't mean that one person is doing better at motherhood because they were able to get out the door and do something nice that day. For me, getting out was my therapy, and I noticed that my overthinking was reduced whenever I was able to get out the door, enjoy the fresh air, that change of perspective. It really helped me to navigate that tough old time in the beginning. I guess that was normal for me, so I kept it up and I tried to get the girls out as much as possible. It was both for their benefit as well as my own. And since getting out and about regularly, as I say, was normal for us, I noticed that I felt guilty on the days that I didn't manage to get out the door. And I kind of felt that I was letting the girls down because I didn't have the energy to pack all three of us up and get out the door. But now, I try to focus on what is possible and try and not put unnecessary pressure on myself to accomplish everything every day. Over time, I've managed to get our weekly routine into a little groove. I'll check what the weather forecast is for the week ahead and plan accordingly. I try to attend a TOTS group on Tuesday and I plan some activity on Thursdays, and I hopefully manage a walk some days in between as well to break it all up. Saturdays in our household are usually for grocery shopping, cleaning, getting our chores done to help us to take on a brand new week. On a Saturday morning, I would get up, batch cook dinners for us and make sure all the laundry and the ironing was done and that everything was set out for the week ahead just to make things easier as we manage another week. Sundays are my favourite day of the week and we keep them special for family days. There's nothing more that I love than packing the car up and heading up the Frosses Road for a nice family walk across West Strand Beach in Portstewart. Or perhaps if the weather isn't great, I love finding inside play areas which we can take the girls to as well. Recently we went up to Coleraine to Alley Cats, and we also went to Wee Adventures in Cookstown in County Tyrone as well, which was great fun. I'm always on the lookout for new places to explore or nice walks, which of course are double pram friendly. If you know of any, please do send me a little message. My inbox is always open on Instagram, so if you know of any nice soft play areas or activity areas in Northern Ireland for for toddlers, or lovely walks in Northern Ireland that certainly are double pram friendly, let me know. I'm always on the lookout for it. But anyway, I don't think when it comes to motherhood, or in fact, even when it comes to anything in life, I don't think there's a one size fits all, is there? And there's no manual with motherhood either. Nor should it be a tick box activity of all of the things that our children do in life. Instead, I try to focus more on what our family ideals are and less on what someone else's way of life is. All of us get one crack at life. Why don't we make it a good one? So instead of wasting so much time on what others think or say, I try to create my own path in life. And I stick with what my gut tells me and what decisions feels right for us as a family. And there's a real freedom in making your own decisions for your own life and being at peace with that. I gave away far too much of my peace when I looked at others for validation. Aren't we all just figuring it out as we go? Shouldn't we make our own decisions on what feels right for us in our lives and in our family homes? Some of the things that I've been working on which helps me to blaze my own trail in motherhood are, I try to embrace my own unique journey through twin motherhood. I try to make the decisions based on what is important to us as a family. And when I find myself scrolling through social media, I can feel a real sense of inadequacy of the things that I haven't done with Isla and Aria. I call out those thoughts for what they are. They're just thoughts. And because I see lots of shiny photos and videos on social media, I remind myself that this does not call into question my capability of being a mother. One thing that I really value in life is my relationship with others. That can be relationships with my family, my friends, and everyone that I meet on my travels. My relationship with others is very important to me. Throughout my life, I have experienced many challenging situations, and it is in these events that have taught me the true meaning of life and the gift of kindness and warmth, and just how much that means to people. I love meeting new people. I particularly enjoy meeting all of you multiples families around the world and sharing our stories together. No matter where we're located in the world, it is so heartening to see just how our little families can connect us no matter our location in the world. And I am a firm believer in celebrating others. I like to encourage others and lift them up, particularly when they need it most. All of us need a little helping hand in life, a kind listening ear, or a friendly chat. These are the things that really sustain me in life. When I lost my dad in those early days of motherhood, it was quite an isolating time. And that is why I decided to set up the Twins Mummy NI community on Instagram to try and connect with other mums of multiples out there. And I'm so very grateful for the wonderful friendships that have now been formed through our little babies. I really enjoy our meetups in Antrim where we share our experiences of multiples family life. In fact, we have another one coming up now this Saturday and I'm really looking forward to it. And this sharing encompasses a real sense of empathy among each of us and not comparison. Our shared experiences have created a beautiful sense of community and understanding. And for that, I will always be very thankful. Lastly, I try to focus on our own core values and make decisions that align with our choice of family life. Instead of comparing myself to others, I try to focus more on what is really important to us as a family and less on comparison with others. When I do find myself stuck in a real comparison trap, I try to reframe my thoughts in a more realistic way. I think to myself, what is it that I feel that I'm lacking here? And I try to find something to do about it. Instead of convincing myself of inadequacy, I look for inspiration to what could bring more joy into your day. I try to figure out what is really going on and why I'm reacting like this, and more importantly, what I can do about it. I choose to be inspired by others instead of feeling inadequate in comparison. I've picked up lots of helpful tips and tricks from a range of outlets as I learn to navigate this stage of parenting toddlers. I do find social media helpful in sourcing some fun activities to do with the girls, like perhaps arts and crafts, some little baking ideas. We're coming up to Easter now very shortly, and I love baking and trying out lots of different recipes. And each fresh new lunch and dinner ideas have been really helpful that I've found on social media. But when I feel that I'm going down the comparison rabbit hole, perhaps from being on social media, I consistently revert back to my own path and make the very best of what we do have. I notice by changing up my perspective and focusing more on purposeful actions for our family instead of negativity, we're able to live a more authentic family life. I suppose comparison is inevitably not only a part of motherhood, but lots of aspects of life. It's so easy to go down the comparison route, and that equally is very normal. It's such a natural and human response to feel like that. It doesn't make us bad people. In fact, quite the opposite. It makes us human. But I feel if I can nip it in the bud early and choose what is real for us, whatever that may look like, that in turn creates a real sense of happiness as I learn to navigate these early years, certainly of motherhood. One piece of advice from what I have learned in making many mistakes is that none of us is like anyone else. None of us. And I think we can learn a lot from that. We are unique. We don't need to be like anyone else. Surely what we all contribute is something quite special in our own individual way. And I truly believe that the quicker we let comparison stay in the rear view mirror, the more our real and authentic selves will come out. And that is something worth celebrating every day. Motherhood is beautifully complex, isn't it? It's a journey like no other. It takes us through many highs and lows, and it challenges like nothing else. But I wouldn't have it any other way. It is the only thing in life that brings my heart so much joy, no matter how drained or tired or tapped out that I feel at the end of each day. One stress that we certainly do not need is to add to this already difficult at times journey is the pressure of setting unrealistic standards for ourselves as mothers. This idea of striving to be a perfect mother, I feel is so unrealistic, certainly when it comes to my own journey. At times, social media or society even can portray this false image of the perfect mother, the perfect life, the perfect home. Those who effortlessly balance everything and do so with such grace. But for me, perfection is a complete waste of time. Do you ever catch yourself putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on yourself to do everything every day? To cook the healthiest meals, to fill the day with lots of educational activities, or to make sure that all the chores are done whilst looking after your children all in the one go. I mean, how realistic is that to achieve everything? It wouldn't be realistic in other aspects of our life, so why should motherhood or parenthood be any different here? Maybe you are superwoman or superman and you can let me into that secret, but certainly for me, it isn't attainable, but equally, that is okay. And do you know what? I'm happy with that. I like to focus more on creating spontaneous little moments throughout our day, and I take my cues from my girls and how they're feeling. I'm enjoying that close bond that is developing each day between the girls and myself. Yeah, I'm always open and honest with Isla and Daria, and it's important to me that they see Mummy can make mistakes too. And it is my hope when they grow up that they learn that mistakes can happen, and that is okay, and not to pressure themselves into being perfect. I would like to teach them that they can pick themselves up, learn from the situation, and grow into strong, adaptable, and resilient young women. I hope this creates a space of acceptance for them in our family home. I think it's important to embrace all of our flaws and in doing so, making space for our own personal growth and learning. I do this with the hope that when Isla and Aria are older, they can find their place in the world with much more confidence in themselves and take things in their stride. Motherhood certainly doesn't come with a manual. We evolved into the role of mum. Every single day can be a real learning that showcases our wins and our losses. And I am a firm believer in celebrating all of our little wins, even on the more difficult days. If that is merely just getting out of bed, getting everyone fed, clean and nourished, well, that's good enough for me. And I think it's key to highlight here that making mistakes is not a sign of failure, nor does it call into question our ability as mothers. It certainly shouldn't diminish our belief in ourselves. Making mistakes is all part of life. And when I make mistakes, I'm transparent with my children about that. I hope it teaches them that we are human and that we grow and learn exactly the same way as they too are growing alongside us each day. It's okay not to be the perfect mother. I don't think there really is such a thing. Nor do I think there needs to be either. Sure, where would the fun in that be? Motherhood is a unique journey with many experiences, all of which are exclusive to each one of us and our families. With that in mind, how can we swerve the comparison rabbit hole? Well, in my experience so far in this journey, I think the key is to create genuine and wholesome connections with others. Make decisions based on your own family ideals and celebrate each other whilst limiting comparing ourselves to what others do. I try to cherish each moment in motherhood and really live out an authentic maternal role in our family home. It isn't always easy, but I feel it is something worthwhile striving for. Each day as I grow alongside Isla and Aria, I am learning to let go more of the shoulds and try to trust myself more in any given situation and celebrate those little wins when they do occur. Some of the main takeaway points here for me are acceptance and letting go of comparing our motherhood journey to others, and striving for an authentic motherhood instead of what can be at times unrealistic and unnecessary pressure. Remember, we're all doing the best that we can in any given situation that motherhood presents, and that is good enough. Please don't make the mistake that I did and doubt yourself in motherhood. Remind yourself what you're really achieving each day and that it doesn't have to be picture perfect. Rather, you're doing the best you can to give your own children a nice life of their very own. Now, isn't that something quite special? Well, that's it for this week's episode, folks. And I hear Aria has woken. I can see her. Just going to peek in here. Aria has woken up, so perfect timing. I just about got through this podcast episode, no more, but I'm thankful for that. I'm going to get lunch here in the go. I get 2 nappy pies, change very shortly, and get lunch in the go here now. But thank you for your time today. I will join you next time for a chat on the Twins Mummy NI podcast. In the meantime, take care and remember, there is always